Welcome back to the Passion for Craft podcast. Today, we have a little late to the trend, an outs and ins list. I don't know if you know this, but in pop culture, they were doing like ins and outs of 2025.
What? Who?
They.
How?
Them.
Who? They all did that?
Yeah. No, it was like, it was a podcast trend where a lot of people were like, for 2025, this is out. For 2025, this is in.
All right.
And so it's kind of like outs and ins. But our producer, Austin, came up with this great idea for us to talk about 5 building techniques that we want to never see again, and then 5 building techniques that we want to see a lot more of, or we want to bring back that aren't around anymore. So we've individually made lists, and we both didn't get to 5. So we're just going to talk about some building techniques we want to see.
This is not a 2025 thing. This is a forever. Forever they should be banned.
No. Okay.
Or forever
like
they
it.
should live.
Okay. Game on.
Yes.
Game on. Do you want to start?
No,
it seems
you
like
start.
You're pretty passionate.
You start.
All right. So I made my list. And are we starting with our outs first? The things we
Sure.
don't want to see anymore? Okay. Get out of here. Spartan kick. So thing I want to see out is MDF of all kinds. I just don't think there's any place for it. I've tried to use it in, I think, a lot of its applications. It holds any water, any place for anything ever. I tried to use it making a box, and of course the side I used MDF on just went and just folded out. As soon as it got wet, it bent, turned into
What did you use it on?
like do you remember those benches that I built?
Oh yeah. Yeah, MDF is a joke.
It's a joke.
It's a yoke.
Yeah, you should get out of here.
Well, I mean, here's the problem. Okay?
Yeah?
Because MDF is a
What's MDO?
it's
Same
an
thing?
exterior board, and so we'll use MDO. We will use MDO. Yes, you know,
Is that even legal?
close your mouth. It's dropped to the floor
Why?
on exterior panels of a storefront, where we don't want them to ever rot or warp or move because water's such a problem. So there is that would be a place we'd use MDO. But you know,
I do not like this, Sam. I am.
yes. So here's the thing. Here's where I didn't get to 5.
Yeah.
Is because I basically said I'm sick of the fake non-wood things.
That was one of yours?
Yes. Yeah.
Look at us.
That is.
Like father, like son.
I wish we could have real products, right? Real materials. Okay. It's better on the environment. If you think about all of the glued products that are on the market today, you know,
Plywood, MDF, MDO,
chipboard,
laminated
laminated stranded,
board.
you know, veneered woods,
Sorry, yeah, you
finger
go ahead.
joints.
Oh, you're thinking the same thing.
you know, all of these different things that are made with wood that require glue, okay, in order to survive. Even the concrete things that are concrete chips that have been epoxied all together to come up with something. We are just becoming so reliant on byproducts held together with glue that one, I fear for the environment. The carbon footprint of some of these things are terrible. I mean, Hardy, and cement stuff is terrible. And so all Hardy is glue and cement dust.
Yeah.
And so I'm sick of it.
I think there's a place for glue.
There's no place for glue, Jackson.
So when we built our sheds, we used liquid nails in the foundation. That's a glue, right?
Yes.
No place.
Well, why?
Hold it together.
More.
Hold it sticky. I don't know.
But you bolted it down. You screwed it down.
Yeah, we nailed it.
Okay, so you're
We nailed
relying. So I would like to build so we don't have to rely on glue to hold everything together. Okay, why is that a concept? Because what you're saying is, for thousands of years, we built without glue.
Yeah.
Okay, and those buildings, are still standing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost to the point where we are looking at glue as being, well, I don't know how we do it without glue.
Yeah.
And
Are you guys ready for this? Your 100-year window doesn't have glue in it, right?
my 100-year window does not have glue in it.
The bedwood glue.
There's wood glue in there. Yeah.
Yeah, thousands of years.
But I'm talking about the and look, we could build our window without glue if we could use
we
pegs.
just choose not to.
If their clients don't all like peg joints, okay? So consider the fact up until they made
And that's like draw boring, like
yes.
pegs. Okay.
Yeah, that you had animal hide glues up until the 1920s, or roughly in that period. That before you had the modern glues, okay, they weren't waterproof, and so you had to have a mechanical fastener of some sort to kind of hold those joints together over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And
Because water came along, and then it was like.
but like the only place glue is in the joinery between where the stiles and rails come together, and it's an overlapping finger jointed joint that we do glue, okay, but we also nail, and then we would peg it ideally in a perfect world. But our windows aren't going to survive or fail because of glue. Whereas if you have a finger jointed wood, or if you have these other products, like I just don't know how long Huber tape is going to last, right? Zip tape. We are building and reliant, okay, on the fact that this product that's been around for 20 years is going to last 100 years.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. Okay, I don't think Huber's, the zip tape people are saying it will, but there's no doubt some great science going on there that has put these tapes together. But we're relying on those tapes to flash and seal a window, okay? And it causes us to be lazy about other parts of the product.
What's a sub for that?
What's a substitute for that? Well, if you look at it 100 years ago, it would be a metal pan, right? That you would fabricate and bend a metal pan so that it would shed water. I mean, the other thing is I've seen people who pitched the lower plate where they build a window frame out, and they pitch the sill of the framing of the window so that water, when it hits it, drips off, which is a great idea. So I would like to get back to a time where we're using natural products so that it doesn't require going into a lab or going into a factory to make a product. We are, as craftsmen, and you've heard me say this before, reliant on these plastics and these concretes and these other things to make up for bad craftsmanship. Right. And we've forgotten how to pitch a windowsill, so we want it made out of plastic so it doesn't rot. Instead, that if we just knew how to pitch a windowsill and have a drip edge and get water away from the building, we wouldn't have to do hardy and do these other things that are bad for the environment and just bad for craft and everything else. Drives me crazy.
Makes sense.
So, you said it started with MDF for you, but it's like all products that we are relying on. Why can't we just use the real product? It drives me up the wall, okay, that these fake siding companies have the wood grain in the siding. It's just like...
We were at a show the other day.
Oh, my gosh.
They had a beautiful rock wall in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was plastic.
We were at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, and one of the booths, they had a...
Justin Boot Outlet. I'm just kidding. I don't remember who it was. It was someone.
It was someone, and their booth, the outside wall and the hallway as you walk in the trade show was stone, quote unquote stone. And you could see where they had drywall screws, ironically, holding the lapped, and there's an overlap. It clearly was
It was pretty funny because when you walked into the booth, there's like a gap in that trade wall, and so you saw like little half circulates where the end of the stone was, and you could just see right through them.
We should have taken a picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, the more products that come onto the market like that, the more people are trained in, well, I don't need stone, I can just do this. Or I don't need this, I can just do this. We get further and further away from the original product, and we look at the original product, the original wood thing, well, I don't know what to do with it. How do we even put this together? And where are the clips? Where's the things where I screw it to the frame? Where's these mechanical things that help me install this, right? And we've forgotten, well, wait, you know how to install siding on a house, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, where are the clips? No, there are no clips. Well, what, right? And just they start, hemming and hawing. They don't know where to go. That to me is bad for craftsmanship. That's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad for craftsmen because they don't know how to craft things together.
Well,
It makes
and we were
sense.
talking about it the other day. Home Depot and Lowe's, bless their heart, they are
Bless their heart.
bless their heart.
They're having a hard
They're
time.
trying.
They're doing their best.
They have grown up to help the handyman. The problem is the number of tradesmen that go there and find products or use those products that were meant to be easily installed by a handyman or by a husband who doesn't have any training, or a wife or mom or whatever the case is. They dumb down craftsmanship. They dumb down the deal. And when you can learn how to tile a bathroom in a half-hour class at Home Depot, we've got issues. We've got issues.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think Home Depot is recognizing it as well. Like,
Why do you say that?
well, they have so many grants out there for people going into the
for crafts,
trades.
yeah.
Like, they are very pro-trade. They're not anti-trade. I know it's because they'll get more people buying their services and stuff, but at the same time, it's like,
No, yeah.
ideally, they're moving the needle towards more people being able to do that. And I feel like when people get more competent, they're like, I shouldn't be using this. I'm going to use the real thing.
right.
I think that's what happens whenever competency comes around.
Well, it's another industry where that's an example of that.
Where more competency gets people to move away from the beginner stuff,
Yeah.
and then move into the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I think any industry, I think you use the easy stuff to get people in the door, and then they get their foot in the door. It's like gambling. This one where they give them like, hey, we're gonna give you $100 cash to make your bets on, and then they make a bet or whatever, and it's free money, and then they're like, oh, that was fun, that was a rush. I want to try the harder stuff. I want to, not a 100% great example, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just
Like any industry, like what we're doing with woodworking at North Bennett Street School, they're teaching us the easiest joinery first, and then we want to do the harder stuff. We're like, yeah, I can do this. I want to do the harder stuff.
so yeah.
Human nature.
This
So that was your first out?
my first out was plastic and vinyl.
Plastic and vinyl. I said he would say that.
Did he?
Telling Austin. I said.
You want to know my top three were?
Well, do you want to do them one at a time, or you just want to
so
blow
first
the
one was
reveal?
plastic and vinyl,
Yeah,
right? Because plastic and vinyl are another example of wood, right?
Right.
I mean, of glue, right? They're instead of gluing wood fibers together to make MDF, we're going to glue plastic fibers together to make AZEK or TimberTrex or whatever the
Great
latest thing
product
is,
yeah.
right? The fake product that they use.
The awesome.
And then my number two was
Yeah.
all new products. Right?
Yeah, I think-
Every new product that's out there,
Yeah, yeah.
except our 100-year window.
I love how serious you took
Every
it.
new product, Jackson. Okay? We don't need it. We don't need more cheap things that solve something that's already
Yeah.
been solved.
Yesterday,
All new products.
you were saying it would be so great if there was technology and sociological that come along, and that's what moves us forward in design and our styles. There's got to be some technological.
That's not what I said. That's
What'd
not what
you
I
say?
said.
What'd you say? What was the direct quote?
They'll have to listen to that episode to get exactly what I said. But basically, why do we need another plastic siding? Why do we need another vinyl clip system? Why do we need
easy enough already? It's not easy enough yet.
right? The
the
manufacturers are sitting there looking at it. Go, well, we need something new for 2025. Let's
Yeah.
come out with this color. Let's come out with this new clip. Let's come now a faster installation.
Yeah.
At the build show, they had the Pella people were right there. Sorry, Pella, I'm just going to rip you. But they were walking into the showroom. They have this thing, and their whole thing was now faster installation.
Yeah, 5-minute window install.
Yeah, and it was just this picture and this stopwatch up there, and they're like, "How fast can you install this product?"
Yeah.
It's just like that is so anti-craft,
Yeah.
anti-building to
Kind of.
last. No, it is.
No. Was it? Remember that old video of the guy installing the drywall? That like 1980, it's a lot older than that.
1940.
Maybe. It's a guy installing the drywall. He's got a thick mustache. Maybe I'm making that up. But he's sitting there and he's like, gung, 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 like one nail. He's got a hammer and nail, drywall nails, and he's, and And then the back of his hammer has an axe head on it, and he's like scoring the plywood, or the drywall, and he just goes crack, 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 and puts it into an archway,
Right.
and he finishes the thing in like 5 minutes. I mean, that's craft at its highest level, you know? Where a guy's able to do something
craft.
like that.
It's
Well,
craft.
but
It's not
think
at its
about-
highest level.
Yes.
It is a high level
You were
of craft.
saying the
It's
other
not
day,
at its highest level, Jackson.
Dovetail guy. Who's the dovetail guy? Ted Durst? What's his name? Can't remember his name.
Tag Freed.
There he is.
Close. Close, Ted.
Yeah. Tag Freed, he was saying faster. Good. Now faster. Like that was his dad's whole deal. It's like, you gotta do it. I gotta do it fast. And I'm poking some holes. See what I'm saying though? Like there's a little bit of stuff where it's like really good craftsmen can do craft fast, but it takes knowing how to do it slow first in order to get there.
I would argue that in that example, the Pella example, Pella had, as a manufacturer, had come up with a faster install system that they were pushing the craftsman forward.
Yeah.
It wasn't the craftsman who had learned how to install a window faster. It was a manufacturer who had done something so that it could be installed faster.
I was just pushing back at the fact that you were saying faster is bad for craft, when sometimes it's like, no, that's actually really good for craft.
No,
if
it
you
was
do
I
Well, we're saying the same
concede
thing.
your point,
Saying the same
right?
thing.
And so I do, I concede your point. But why do we need, like, name a product? Somebody out there in Patreon, or someone out there listening to this, name a
YouTube,
new
Apple.
product that we need right now in building that's going to make building better. I mean,
a window that lasts.
I'm sure
100
there's
years.
something. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's something I'm not considering.
A
right?
window that lasts 100 years.
Wait, there is a product like that already.
A door that lasts 100 years. What else? A house that lasts 100 years. I mean, a house that lasts is a new product.
The reason,
that we need,
the reason,
but
the
we already
reason
have it.
I get frustrated going to the International Building Show is it's because all of these manufacturers chasing after one another, who's going to have the latest, coolest product.
Yeah.
5 years ago it was the fake porcelain countertops and the grays and whites and everything there was 25 manufacturers that had the exact same thing, but theirs was called, Color Stone, and the other one was called Stones Colored. And the other, it's just like, we don't need new products today to advance building. We need people who know how to craft and build better, right? And get faster, to your point.
Yeah.
So my out for 2025 is all new products. Like, let's go a year. Let's go 5 years without any manufacturers coming out with new products.
Wow.
Yes.
What are they going to manufacture in that
They
time?
are going to spend their time encouraging craft and encouraging building. Why are you laughing?
I could just see the board meeting now of that company. All right. I had an epiphany.
I got a great idea.
I was actually listening to this podcast.
Nothing new
the
for the next 5 years.
Pella CEO. We're actually going to stop making everything. All right. We're just going to encourage people. We're going to go out to job sites and we're going to say, great job on your craft. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but also, like, I feel like there's got to be a pivot in those companies to where they just go, I don't know. Some of those companies need to stop existing. Like, unfortunately, like there's just not
They're
a
bad
need
for
for
the
some of it.
environment. They're bad for quality building. They're putting out a product that doesn't last.
They're bad for homeowners. They're bad money. It's a waste of money to buy some of those products that's going to die out. It's, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't know. Maybe this feels like common sense to me. My wife, whenever we first got married, she used to go to the store. She used to go to Target and get a 6-pack of Quaker Oat snack bars. 6-pack. And I was like, why are you buying a 6-pack of these bars? She's like, well, I only go through about 6 in a week. I'm like, okay. They don't perish for like 4 years. Why don't you go to Costco and buy 40 of them, and like the price per ounce, price per bar goes from being like $1.50 all the way down to like 20 cents. Why are you, like, you could just spend the money on the thing that's going to last you a longer time. You spend less money on a product that's going to last you a longer time. Same thing with clothes. Like, I should just buy a cheap pair of sunglasses because whatever. Well, unless the lifespan on them is going to, like, if you break a pair of sunglasses every, 5 minutes, great. Buy a $20 pair of sunglasses, buy a $10 pair of sunglasses, awesome. But if you don't break your sunglasses, you don't lose things, Go buy a really nice pair that'll last you, that'll protect your eyes, that'll do all this stuff.
I get it.
Same thing with houses.
But here's the deal. If the craftsman, okay, if the builder out there said, I'm not going to buy a new product.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to buy their new thing because new isn't always better.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to instead learn how to manufacture and work with the older stuff. I'm going to problem solve. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we are looking to manufacturers. We're looking to tool people. We're looking to other people to solve our problems of how we build. So we can build faster and cheaper, or newest, right? Yeah. Instead of like, no, we're going to invest our time on the old way of building so that our buildings last 100 years. Because if you really sit there and you commit to the fact that I want my buildings to last 100 years, a lot, I don't want to know it's the majority, but a lot of the products that we're putting in our house do not fall under that 100-year time.
Yeah.
Windows, and if you put on the mandate that not only were we going to build products that aren't new, but we're going to build things that are healthy, that don't off gas,
good for the environment, good for your house,
good for the environment, good for the house, good healthy for your family. It quickly goes from a strong percentage to absolutely a majority for the things that are going into new houses. Yeah. From the floors to the cabinets to the that off gas so bad they're filled with MDF and glue and formaldehydes and things like that. The carpet, the fabrics in our furniture, all the crap that we put into that go into the new things coming out of China. Right. That are cheaper, faster, ready available at Nebraska Furniture Mart. Which, by the way, is the worst name for a company ever.
Nebraska Furniture Mart?
Like nobody thinks of Nebraska and thinks furniture, right? Nobody thinks Nebraska and says, oh, fine craftsmanship, And so that's why they changed their name to NFM because everybody looked at it like Nebraska Furniture Mart. Why would I think about going to Nebraska? Like if it was like the Boston Antique Mart, right? Yeah. Or the Boston, something in New England, something that conjured up the idea of fine furniture and craft and fine, Nebraska Furniture Mart. Does anybody think about Nebraska for anything? Sorry, Nebraska people, love you. Corn, corn, Huskers, bad football,
but good football, yeah. Sorry.
Well, Matt Rule was the coach of the Baylor Bears, and he turned it around. I actually think he's going to turn things around in Nebraska, but anyway,
hot take. No, yeah, that makes sense. That's
okay. So all new products. I'm sticking by that one. Out for 2025.
See you later. Careful with your hand there.
If you're a builder, I just watched a meme on Instagram where this guy has this. He's introducing the shoulder rest or the shoulder arrest that basically keeps your arm from lifting above the Sig Heil. Sig Heil.
So it stops you.
Yeah, stops you from going
hailing a cab.
Yeah, says it's a bad habit that we might try to. Anyway,
great habit to stop.
Yes, so that's my out.
Yeah, that's a good out.
Yeah, no new products.
Mine is tangentially in there. One of my outs was apartments. That was my number 2 out.
Wow.
I don't know. Kind of a hot take, but I thought it'd be good.
What's the thinking on that?
Well, I think it actually comes from how much they cost month to month in terms of like a new homeowner. And my thinking is and I did this, so I'm not trying to say like, oh, I would never do this. I totally lived in an apartment first. It was a great first home, great first opportunity to live in a place. But just from a builder perspective and from like making a neighborhood awesome perspective, I think there's so much cooler stuff that could happen not living in an apartment, instead going for a new home, a new development of homes that's actually well crafted, well done.
So the problem is that...
Problem is big cities.
Problem is when a big city like Fort Worth is growing as fast as growing, the fastest growing metroplex in the country for the last 3 years.
Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
DFW Metroplex?
Uh-huh. And so the problem is that so many people are moving there. And especially when a time like this, when housing affordability is hard and interest rates are really high, Yeah, there's a thing in the building industry where if you read the magazines, they'll talk about the rent or buy thing, kind of the rent or buy signals. Is it better to rent right now, or is it better to buy? And so for a long time, that rent signal was higher because interest rates were high, just so expensive to get a house.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that's happened is that cities were not ready for the speed that the multifamilies go up in. Mm-hmm. And so they end up looking all the same, and they end up...
This is one of the reasons I was out on them.
Yeah, they end up looking all the same, kind of the boxes with the little hints and change of material and color. Cities weren't ready to regulate them. And so there's an area over on White Settlement that our friends bought this development. There was a neighborhood that was turning around, and all of a sudden the multifamily came in, and they just redid that block where Salsa Limon is and all that is. Yeah. They just redid that, filled it up with...
There's like 9 apartment places.
Yeah, 9 with multifamily, and people that were living in those neighborhoods was like, stop. You're ruining our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because of the number of cars that are now there, the parking, the crime, all the different things that congest those neighborhoods and make them livable and enjoyable now is over. And so the apartments from a planning zoning thing is hard to manage.
Yeah.
But they're slot machines for the owners of those.
I cannot imagine how much money they print.
Yeah, they print money.
But I'm just thinking they were so frustrating to work with, the apartment people. Like, it was like any problem that you had in your apartment was like, how did you mess this up?
Well, your cabinets came off the wall.
Our cabinet fell off the wall, and they made it seem like it was our fault.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'm looking on the wall, and I told them, and they gave us the money that we were owed, and our insurance helped take care of it.
They weren't screwed into studs. They weren't
screwed into the side of the cabinet.
Yeah.
So it was a corner cabinet, and they only screwed into one of the sides. They didn't screw into the other side.
Wall.
Yeah, because there were no screws.
But I don't think it was in the stud either, was it?
It was possible that some of them weren't. I actually don't know whether or not they weren't in the stud. For me, the bigger issue was you didn't even screw it into the other one. And they're like, no, we always do that. And I was like, I have pictures of there being no screw holes in a full wall. You
have to have the photo documentation or you're screwed.
Oh my gosh, we would have been done for. So it was very annoying to deal with because it was like, this was the most clearly, because it didn't happen. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to climb on the countertop. Let me hold on to the cabinet really fast. It was the middle of the night, and we woke up to and I'm like,
what just
stay
happened?
Back. Let me go figure out what's going on. And because it sounded like someone broke into our home or into our apartment, and we were on a ground floor apartment. So we were like, what in the world? So we checked it out, and of course, it had just fallen over.
Did you have Branson then?
Yeah. He's freaking out. He was in his kennel at the time. So he was...
Yeah. Anyway, so I get the no more apartments thing.
Yeah,
probably won't happen.
No, but it's my dream. But I also think it would be so much cooler if those developments were they dispersed the amount of people into smaller towns, because instead of kind of a kingmaker system, kind of like we have right now, where it's like, if you want to go work for a big company, you've got to go to a big city. And you've got to go live in that big city or live on the outskirts of that big city, and you've got to go whatever. But instead, if it kind of if there weren't apartments, it would kind of force people out of big cities, which would make other big cities, which would create another hub for another reason.
That goes back to the planning and zoning piece.
I know. I know it's not.
People have to be ready for it, and they're not.
But it would just make so many cooler opportunities for a beautiful city. A lot of times people go to other countries and they're like, have you seen this country? Have you seen how they planned this, how they did this, how they whatever? We would have so many more opportunities for we're going to go name a small town.
Like Waco small town, or
Smaller.
like Graham, Texas?
We're going to make Graham, Texas a new headquarters for Amazon. And it's not a headquarters, but it's like a new facility for Amazon. And then they could design a whole thing around it, have a warehouse out there, not in the center of the town, but towards the outskirts of the town. They could plan and build really well around it, add infrastructure, and they could bring out these really cool new places, especially in middle of the country where there's not a lot of major developments. There's kind of you drive, you hit a big city, and then there's nothing, and then big city, and then nothing. and not even like farm zones and like other places. I don't know. I think it could be cool, and then there'd be chances for like architects and builders to build great new things.
Yeah, again, you're into a planning.
I'm gonna keep talking about it. All right.
No, it's not. That isn't a craft problem. That is a planning problem.
But it would make craft better. It would make craft cooler.
Could.
Could.
Okay, the last out I have.
Yeah.
And it's all in the same.
He only
thing.
had 3.
Glue. I want us to build without glue.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you had a theme.
Yeah.
And you ran with it.
Yeah. No plastic. No new products. No new products. And no glue. So the glue challenge. This is a glue challenge. I'm just throwing out to
Somebody
people.
is 3 years into a patent right now, listening. Like this is gonna change the game. Oh, he doesn't like this new product.
So the glue
attention.
challenge is not even something for manufacturers. The glue challenge is for craftsmen. Is can you build what you're building right now without using glue? And so I just throw that out like how would you, I don't know what they're gluing, right?
Yeah.
But let's quit using glue.
We glued a sliding lid box. That's what we made out of glue recently.
You glued the ends, but you weren't relying on the glue.
We glued the 4 corners of it.
Right. But because your end grain's going to running grain, you're not actually relying on the glue. The glue's just kind of helping tack it all together.
We're not like finger joining. So we use nails through them. So,
That's what I mean. There's your mechanical fastener that's holding it together. Glue is a short-term fix, but that glue will crack up and go away within a year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because it's end grain. You've glued the end grain of the wood. It's not going to hold very long. So
unless I'm really careful with it.
Just to pet it.
Yeah.
So right, no glue. It changes the way you think about how you're putting things together. Instead of gluing a joint, you would do dovetail corners. You would do a box corner. You would do something else. You would then.
How do box corners get held together?
Glue. No.
That's all I've seen. So that's all I was like,
You'd stick a pin down through the top of it.
Even if they're like a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. You kind of hesitated. Are you for real?
Jerry, would you date her?
Yes.
Yes, you hesitated.
Who could be smarter than you?
I like a thick, luscious set of hair.
Yeah.
You like a thick, luscious set. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
Sorry, that's my challenge to craftsmen. Quit relying on glue so much.
So if you're pinning a 1/4 by 1/4
Yes.
pin, like corner that meets, it's like 3 inches.
I understand
3 inches tall, 3 inches tall, 1/4 by 1/4,
3 inches tall. Okay.
and you're pinning it.
Yes.
You're gonna do that.
What's your question?
You're gonna pin that.
I just said yes.
I'm just asking. Okay, I feel like I don't understand the mechanics of it just yet, but like you got to fit that pin down the whole thing.
No, you
got to
don't.
drill a hole down the whole thing.
You don't.
Oh.
I mean, you could take a 1 1/4 inch nail, right, and shoot down through the top and shoot down to the bottom. You don't have to go through the whole thing to hold it together. I mean, if you got a 3 inch by 3 inch box cornered thing, I'm not sitting there. You haven't built that thing to last 100 years anyway. A box joint is a somewhat weak joint because you're relying on glue or you're relying on something else to do it. If you really wanted that to hold together, you would do a dovetail corner.
Fair point.
So, that's part of the challenge, right? Is that you are not looking at glue as being your answer.
Yeah.
And this would be the same for the tape that we use to weather seal our, our windows and our doors. That instead of taping over the top of a window, you would have a metal flashing, something that, is going to last longer. So anyway, it's just, I'm not saying I'm necessarily going to even follow that, but it does change the way you think about building if you are saying no glue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, what's your in? Are you out for what? Do you have any more outs?
I have 2 more outs.
Okay, let's
just keep going and keep going.
Why don't you give them to us?
Yep. Spray foam insulation.
Ooh, I love that one.
You didn't say that.
That was
You're welcome.
That was a good one. Thank you for picking that one up.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
happy to be here. I don't like spray foam insulation. I think Rockwool is typically used for sound dampening, but I like it more for insulation.
It does both, which is it kind of kills two birds with one stone.
Two birds.
So, yeah, I mean that's actually a really good one. I should have done that one. That should have been mine.
You rushed through your list.
Yeah,
you
so
only got 3 out of 5. So.
I hate foam, and I continue to harp on the BBC article that lenders have stopped doing that in England, and I think lenders will stop doing that in America.
Mm-hmm. You used to be big on foam.
My house is foamed attic,
mm-hmm.
and I am realizing that I've got a ticking time bomb on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
That if I don't go up there and inspect the roof every few years to make sure that I don't have a leak and I don't have a water trap, if I didn't do that, if I don't make that part of my maintenance thing,
mm-hmm.
I could have some real issues.
That is the craziest thing about it. As you're building these sealed boxes that are homes, the Bubble Boy homes, is like you won't know that you've got a problem. Versus like with another home, you will know that you have a problem. But I think a lot of people are comfortable being like, if I don't know about the problem, it's not a problem,
The problem I have with it is that it feels to me like a lot of builders chase after a number. Like, I want to get to this rating and this kind of U value and this kind of thing. And with cellulose or fiberglass or Rockwool or something else, you can get 95% of the way there. It requires more work to install that, right? That's the biggest challenge to asking for that, is that you recognize that it takes longer to install, but you aren't making your house so efficient with the foam that it outweighs all these other things. You just open yourself to a bunch of problems. But I would love it if we didn't have foam in 2025. That'd be great.
What do you think about blow foam?
What is blow foam?
I thought there was a way you could, instead of spraying foam insulation into walls, that you could blow foam in. And there was like chipped up Rockwool that you could just go cut a hole into the top and then just...
Well, I mean, we blow in cellulose. Rockwool doesn't have the ability to blow in their material yet. You can blow in fiberglass. You can't blow in...
What do you think about that?
I love cellulose. I love a blown-in product. I think there's a lot of advantages to it. So
Totes.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. It's good to know.
What was your fifth one? Because we got to get to ends.
Outs. Developments.
No, we're not doing that one.
What?
That's the same as apartments.
It's kind of opposite of apartments, but...
No, it's not. It's what I said when we were talking about apartments, that the development, the city is relying on that. They're not prepared.
I don't like crappy development, so I want them out of here.
Fair enough. What's your in?
That was my fourth out, and I'll just leave it there. All right. Ins.
What was your fifth out?
Ins. I didn't have a fifth one. I was just rubbing it in your face. Ins. Timber framing.
Ooh, okay.
Especially in the South. I think it actually could be a really cool idea to
Jackson realized that Jackson's in the heart of, restoration, preservation, timber framing.
It's true.
And he's asked me a couple times when I've been up there in Boston, what about timber frames?
Why wouldn't we just do it?
Why wouldn't we timber frame?
Because one of the problems up in the North is when they timber frame, one, everyone likes to see the timber frame. Everyone's like, if you're timber framing a house, it's got to be shown off somehow. And people don't know about timber framing here. People don't care about timber framing here. You don't have to show it off. But you could achieve the thickness of the walls, the exterior walls that you want to have with a timber framed house and completely hide it, and no one cares, no one's the wiser, and it's a cheaper product. It's cheaper to timber frame.
Jackson was told that by somebody that it was cheaper to timber frame a house
by somebody
because the material was cheaper, because it didn't have to be kiln dried and everything else.
Which is partially true.
Which I don't know. I don't have experience with that. So I could see how that could save money. I don't know if it was that much cheaper, but I mean, the numbers that guy was throwing around was that it was 20% cheaper or something.
I may have misquoted. He's one of my instructors and a listener, and so I'm like, Brock, don't hate me. But he had some numbers. He has some good numbers. That's why I haven't brought it up on the podcast yet, because I don't remember the numbers. I should text him. But basically, I do remember they were cheaper. Like the numbers he gave were definitely cheaper. And I do think when you look at the raw like board footage of wood that you would be using, it's way less like board feet of wood. And then on top of that, the it's not kiln dried, it's not treated. The problem down here would be labor. Like labor cost would be the hardest part because you have to find someone who knows how to timber frame well. But like in theory, you can actually eliminate a lot of stuff. So because in the Northeast, what they have to do is they have to build the timber frame, show it off, and then build another exterior
Like they're building an exterior wall around it.
So it basically insulates it better. But in the South, when people don't care about it, and then two, where it's less worries about insulation, like you can make a house that breathes, and people are more okay with that down here. You could do that. So that's where I think timber framing could actually make a big sweep through the nation down through the South if it had the right people. It's a hot take. Yeah.
So there's you want timber frames in.
I think that's a cool in.
Okay.
Especially in the South.
I love it. My in for 2025 is, if not solid masonry construction, a clear understanding of solid masonry construction, because most of the faux pas, most of the building errors, skid marks on building is the crappy keystones, elements that we're putting on houses as if we're trying to convey it's solid masonry that are just a joke, that are just terrible. And so it would de-uglify houses if we understood the concept of solid masonry.
Yeah.
That guy up in Oklahoma that we need to have here on the podcast, 1,000-year house. Basically, all his buildings are solid masonry construction. That is a type of construction that needs to have a comeback.
Yeah. Slate roofing, another type of solid masonry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
The other thing, I started saying like wood windows, and then I said wood doors, and I was just like wood. I just like wood. I would like wood to make a comeback.
Wood does need to make a comeback.
Yeah, it's getting pushed out more and more and more and more.
It's crazy.
And why can't we just start? Like, why are doors have to be plastic?
Yeah.
Because manufacturers find it easier to make a plastic door than to make a wood door.
It's just crazy because plastic doors you can't fix a plastic door.
No.
You know what I mean?
Throw it away.
It's great. Like you can't salvage a plastic door.
No. So it's just, I was, and then I was like, wood windows, wood doors, wood,
Yeah.
wood siding, right?
Shingle siding.
I would like to get back to
clapboards.
Just real wood construction.
Yeah.
We've got more wood in America than we had, during, I can't remember the statistic, but it's like basically we've got more wood in America than we've had at any other time. And I can't imagine when all the virgin forests were here that we had more wood than we had back then. But the management of forests has improved, and so the raw materials there.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have to go build a new raw material. Or a new, fake material.
That's also why wood's in surplus, is because people are making all these fake woods and fake everything.
What was wood, as Joe Strebick says. Yeah, so, I'm a simple guy. Wood. Got wood.
Wood. That's an old Windsor thing.
Yes, it is.
Curious about your glue question. I'm curious about your glue comment.
Yeah.
Windsor notoriously uses finger-jointed wood.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Windsor? I think Windsor's a great company, but I'm blown away that you're saying no finger joint, no glue, no. And I know their finger joints are really solid because their glue compound's really nice.
So Windsor is a company that they did not pay for this, by the way. Windsor is a company that I've known for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
I met Craig, the previous owner. He reached out to me. And we started a relationship of I designed their line of moldings, and they basically, his family had a old lumber mill in California, and when Craig finished school and got involved in the company, he saw the need for solid boards on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
Fascia, trim, all these different things that were being used that were truthfully kind of being replaced by, plastics and by concrete and things like that. And he's like, why is that? Well, part of the reason why there wasn't just good wood available out there.
Yeah.
And so Windsor began the fight for trying to find good wood. And they ended up going and getting radiata pine, which I'm not a fan of, and they finger joint it and build it into boards.
Which you're not a fan of.
Which is a reality, right? It's not my preference, but it's a reality. So that carpenters can use wood to build things with.
Yeah.
And what they were finding was that people were taking those boards into the houses and using them as trim because there wasn't good trim available anymore either. So if you look back in the early 1900s, there was a lot of 1x material being used. But today, 1x, if you go to some lumber yards, is not even 3/4 of an inch. It's got rounded over corners. It's finger jointed, and it's just no good. Well, they then spent a lot of time with their primers that they were using, with the sealers and the waterproofing methods they were using. And so they have gone as far as I've seen a company try and work to have a solid wood product that we could still use on a job that isn't going to rot and fall apart.
Right.
So yes, they do use glue. Yes, they do use finger jointed, but they would be an example.
But they're cool. They're like cool about it.
They would be an example of a company that said, no, we are committed to wood. We're going to use wood. We're going to solve the shortcomings of new wood. I mean, part of the reason why finger jointed happened was because good wood wasn't available anymore. The virgin forests were all cut down. And so they're having to use second cut and third cut woods. And so the finger joint became part of that. So I recognize it's a reality. The other thing that I would say is that the companies like Ocular, Caboni, who are taking radiata pine, again, and the reason they use radiata pine is because it's fast growing and there's a lot of plantations and stuff growing trees. But they are also using wood, and they are pickling it, right, and heating it with thermowood technology so that the sugars and things are baked out so that it doesn't rot anymore, right? And so
are those the extractives?
They're baking them out.
They're baking out the extractives, yeah.
What's an extractive?
The things that cause fungus
so the sugars that attracted the bugs and the moisture that was is gone. So there's another example. Like I think that in less than 10 years there won't be a need for the plastics and concrete on the markets because technology, thermowood in particular, heating the wood so that you're baking the sugars out of them and changing the molecular structure in some cases, keeps the wood from rotting, keeps the wood from twisting and warping, and people are able to use wood again. So in any case, like we used Caboni on the 1881 house we did in Granbury, where we redid the front and back porch, we did it in Caboni. Because we know that wood isn't going to rot. There's a 25-year warranty and all these different things. So all that being said is that those people are examples of companies who are not looking forward and going, we're going to come up with a new plastic, but are looking back going, we can take this product and make it better, make it so it's workable.
So they're good.
All of those companies, yeah.
They get a pass. They get a slide.
They get a pass, right? They're not
They're not the bad guys.
They're not making bad. They're not trying to invent new bad things. Yeah. They're resolving problems that we can overcome.
Yeah. I think Windsor, not a hot take. It's really good. They have one of the best marketing packages out there right now. Like their marketing is really good. Like they're
like what I don't know what they're marketing.
They're like trendy, they're like clever, they're fun, they don't take themselves too seriously. Yeah. They'll make like a Wheaties box of a sample package of moldings and send them out to you with your face on it. And it's like, that's awesome. I don't know, that just kind of makes the job fun. You know what I mean? It's not too serious. It's not, if you get your project manager's on a set of molding, you're like, what the does this guy know the people? Is he working? I don't know. It's just a fun little detail.
They
do a lot of cool stuff.
They care about craftsmanship.
Yeah. They did the Got Milk thing.
Yeah.
Or Got Wood thing.
Right.
They had a funny campaign slogan for so many years. It was Got Milk.
When Trump first came out, they had to make craftsmanship great again.
Yeah, they've done a lot of they're just funny, you know? I don't know. I think it's clever. So anyway, that's I was just trying to get you there because I know they.
No, it's a good try.
And they.
Yeah, it was a good try.
Yeah, I made you make an exception to your rule. Good try. No, just kidding. So what's another one? What's another one of your ends?
It was
Wood.
Remember, I said wood doors, wood windows. Wait, just wood.
So your only in is wood.
No, my solid masonry construction.
Solid masonry and wood.
And
you
wood.
just want real products.
I want real products.
Stone, wood. I want rock. I want wood.
Yes. Is there a problem with that?
Anything else? What is another product? I mean,
Okay, funny boy. Why don't you? What's your other ends? Let's hear what the apprentice has to say. This ought to be good.
I think workshops should come back in.
Like they're not already in.
Not in. They're not cool enough yet right now. I think everyone needs to have a workshop. I think everyone should have a little something they are working on the side. A little tinkering spot.
Okay.
That's my end.
I think people do.
Not enough. Not in a cool way.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So,
Where's yours?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a big
People
shop down there in Whiskey Flats that has all my tools in it.
Yeah. You get out there and tinker a lot.
Remember, I had my little studio over here before we started redoing it.
I don't.
That was my work area.
I don't remember that.
Right. I got a table saw. I got a great table saw. And I had and I was building samples and showing people how to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was my my free place.
Yeah. Where you can just be you.
Yes, exactly.
That's fun. That's a good answer. That's all I had.
Okay. So you didn't have 5 either.
I didn't have 5 either.
Yeah.
I can make one up. I asked ChatGPT to get some inspiration at first. They gave some funny answers. I actually asked it in the form of build techniques, and they gave some bad answers. I said, what did I say? My exact thing was, list of building techniques we don't use anymore. Because I was like, that'd be kind of fun if some came back. Here's a list of building techniques that have fallen out of the widespread use despite their historical significance and potential relevance today. Here we go. Wattle and daub. The framework of woven wood strips, wattle, coated with a mixture of clay, mud, and straw. Adobe bricks, which we do still use today. Yeah. Hammer-dressed stonework. Not even sure what that is.
That is basically what mine was, solid masonry construction and using bush hammers and other hammers to dress the stone.
Number 3. Pisse, or rammed earth. I don't know what that is, but compressing damp earth into a mold to create solid walls. That was there. Okay. Timber cruck frames. I don't know what that is. I think it's timber framing.
I think it's timber framing.
Corbelling. Stacking stones or bricks to make a corbelled thing. Okay. Thatch roofing, dry stone masonry, vernacular
those aren't
plaster.
terrible answers.
Really?
Yeah, no. I mean,
okay.
I thought they were going to say like,
it said
paper mache.
Yeah. It said lath and plaster. That one I was like, oh, that would be cool if that got back. Because it's not as big anymore. No. Everyone uses the chain link plaster, right?
Chain link plaster.
Like they use the chains.
The metal lath?
Instead of the lath. Yeah, metal lath.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it, I think.
I think
we've solved it.
We did a good,
we figured it out. If that happens in 2025, we win.
Yes. Not only that, I'm retiring if we do that.
Yeah, because craft is fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for watching this episode of the Passion for Craft podcast. If you have ins and outs that we missed, like Brent said, we probably did miss something.
I'm sure we
probably
missed
a new
something.
product that's out there that's good.
Yeah.
And anyway, let us know.